Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, depending on where you're watching this from. It's such a great privilege and it's such an honor for me to come on this evening and to come and have a chat with you guys. If you're new here, my name is Claire. I'm a registered nutritionist. I am a mother, I am a wife, and as I said, I'm a lover of Jesus. I kind of, in a way, just enjoy talking everything and anything about the body. I feel and I know that the body is an important part and parcel of our life, and without our bodies, we are not able to do anything or execute any God given mandate while here on this earth. And so that is why it is important for us to be able to look after our bodies, for us to be able to take care of our bodies, for us to be able to prosper and to be in good health. And one of the ways that I believe we can be able to prosper in our health or our bodies can be able to prosper is through the diet, is through the way that we look after our bodies, what we eat, when we eat, etc. And that is one of the reasons why I'm a great advocate of being able to understand the cycle of your body, to understand when are you able to eat, when are you supposed to be able to switch off from food, so that when you have all these things correlated and interlinked together, they'll give you an opportunity to live or to lead an optimal health or have an optimal body. And so that's why for the last couple of days and the next coming days, for 30 days, I've been challenging myself, saying that, Claire, we're going to be regulating the intervals and the times within which you're eating your food. And as we're doing this, we are allowing the food that we already have in our bodies kind of in a way to be broken down if there's anything that is stored, to be able to regulate things like blood sugar, to be able to regulate things like weight. You can lose tons of weight through just being able to carry out intermittent fasting. You can improve things like insulin markers and blood glucose, etc. And so we have been trying to encourage ourselves and challenge ourselves to tell ourselves that at the end of the day, we will be able to regulate when are we able to eat, when are we switching off from food, so that we can continue with this cycle for 30 days and see the benefits that we will end up with at the end of the day. One of the things that I've been telling myself is that, of course, I've continued to do my exercise, and I mentioned before, hydration is key. I've continued to drink my water as I continue with this journey. I've kind of highlighted to myself every time that I need to drink at least 2 liters of water, and that has been very helpful and has been very useful. I've also continued in this journey to feed my mind. As I mentioned before, I'm reading this book, and I'll talk a little bit about it later on. And I've also continued to do my journaling, so I'm writing down my thoughts, processing my things that come to my mind in this season, and I'm so grateful that I can be able to do this. So today is day 5, and I'm so glad and I'm so grateful that I'm getting more messages from more people that are doing this with us, and that has been really encouraging. That has been really motivating. I'm so grateful and I'm so glad. Yesterday we got to have my dear friend and sister Abby coming online, and she's doing this journey with me, and sharing her story was just so invigorating. It was so beautiful to hear her talking about the mind and how you can prepare psychologically, you can prepare your mind to be able to eat, to be able to switch off, etc. She mentioned something that I would love to highlight again. If you're doing intermittent fasting, maybe you might want to start maybe planning your day out, planning out in a way that you're like, I'm going to eat within this window, and I'm going to fast within this window. That's something that is very important. And she mentioned like she's using an app. So if you want to use apps, there's so many different apps out there that can help you with that. And then that journey, they can give you that opportunity to be able to know. You just click and say, I want which cycle of fasting. And then once the fasting starts and the fasting stops, the app will automatically notify you. I don't use an app when I'm doing intermittent fasting. What I just do is I know the timing within which I want to be starting to eat and when to stop eating. And that really works pretty well for me. So it's something that you might be able to look at, and you might be able to try again. You might want to try different things and see what works better for you, and then stick for what works better for you. And so today I will be talking a little bit about about those people who are allowed or who can and those who cannot first. But before we go into that, if you've been coming here, you've enjoyed the content that we deliver here, you've been encouraged or you've been challenged through interacting with us on this channel, why not consider to become a part of the tribe? Why not consider to like this content, to click like, to share, to comment, or even to subscribe so that you can continue to have more content similar to this? And we'll be more than happy to have you on board and continue to serve you every single day in a way that we are able to do it as God gives us the grace and as He enables us. And so, as I'm going to be thinking or talking about people that cannot be able to first, I was just thinking yesterday, my son and I had an evening, we decided to do a little bit of watching a movie, and he selected to do or to watch Frozen. And as we were doing it in between, of course, he was sleeping and waking up. But as he was coming towards the end, we we're watching Frozen 2. There's just one of the words that kept on being said, that kept on resonating with me. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that and just kind of to encourage somebody today. The words were saying this: take a step. Step again. It was a song, of course. I'm not going to try to attempt to sing. And saying, this one step, this one choice is what I can do. Do the right thing. Hear the voice and do the next right thing. And maybe that's a challenge that I would like to encourage someone here tonight to say to you. Maybe what you need to do is take that one step. Maybe you need to take the step and do the one thing. Take the step and do the one right thing. Do the thing that is going to move you, as I usually say, those needle moving activities that are going to lead you into the place or the spaces where you'll end up with a better life. You'll end up with a more healthy you, and it starts with one step. Maybe the step to that desired body will be the step by you deciding and saying, like, I'm going to start doing intermittent fasting. You might not be able to do the whole set of 18 or 16 hours or 14 hours, whatever, but you can start with just a couple of hours. And that means at the end of the day, if you try to understand or try to ask yourself, who can fast and who cannot fast? Technically, as I mentioned this in one of the recordings, every single human being who goes to bed at night and sleeps for at least a couple of hours does first. If you go to bed in the evening, let's say you go to bed at 7, 8, 9, 10, wherever, and then once you get to bed, you stay in bed until whatever amount of time, and then after that, you wake up in the morning. During that time when you are sleeping, your body is resting, and actually, what is happening in that case is that you are fasting because you're not eating. So, technically, every single human being on earth does fast at least a couple of hours a day. But then when it comes to these things like intermittent fasting, or when it comes to things like restricting yourself from eating for a longer duration of time, it gets to a point that you'll need to understand one thing, that it does take intentionality. It does take a bit of time and effort to kind of, in a way, tell your body that we're going to go without food for a given period of time, so that at the end of it all, we are settling ourselves and challenging ourselves to be able to kind of focus on other things. And that can result in so many different ways. So technically, as I said, we all fast at some point. The duration will be different. If you sleep more, maybe you're fasting longer. If you sleep less, again, you're fasting less. But then there are people that you can fast, for example, for very many reasons, which is something that I've already highlighted before. But there are people that medically it is much more, a little bit more complicated or a little bit difficult for them to be able to fast. It doesn't mean that they cannot be able to fast. It just means that they will need to do fasting under supervision. If that is the thing that the doctors can decide and say, maybe you need to fast, they will be supervising that. And so the first category of people that I highly recommend against, and of course, not just me, it's highly recommended against them fasting. The first category of people are people that have type 1 diabetes. You might be asking yourself, why type 1 diabetes? Because type 1 diabetes, when the blood glucose levels go very low, that is a problem whereby you need kind of in a way to be able to bring them back. And even just people generally with diabetes, they need to bring their blood glucose levels back to normal. And some of it is a matter of a chance between life and death, because if that is not done properly and within the right period of time, it can actually lead to death. And of course, I've experienced this with my own mom. At the end of the day, this is what happened, because being diabetic, and when she got to a point the blood glucose levels were too low and that was not intervened within time or that was needed, it actually resulted in issues. So if you are having any like diabetes and things like that, it might be worthwhile thinking, particularly if you are on insulin dependent diabetes. It is something that is important to think about, and of course to talk about it together with a medical professional, and they will be able to advise you on that. Again, the other category of people that it's not recommended for them to fast. If you're a pregnant woman, of course, you need to eat. You're eating your food, but of course, again, the food that you're eating goes to your baby that is in your womb. If your baby that is in the womb is not well fed and well looked after, you can have issues in terms of like the weight of the baby when they are born, and things like that. So you need to eat, and not just eating, but eat a proper balanced meal that will be able to sustain not you just you, but also to sustain your unborn baby. If you are breastfeeding as well, it's not recommended to do fasting, because you need to have all the nutrients, and the body is very tricky, or Mother Nature knows how to look after babies. So if you are, let's say, breastfeeding and you decide you want to do intermittent fasting, what's going to happen is that your body will start to harvest the nutrients that it has and ensure that the baby is well fed first at the expense of the mother, and that can result in so many different complications. Hence, it is not one of the most ideal things to do if you're breastfeeding, to go for long durations of time without eating. Also, the other thing is, for children who are particularly under the age of 10, it's not recommended, because they are physiologically, biologically, their bodies are still growing, their bodies are still developing. And so at the end of the day, these children, they need their energy, they need their protein, they need their fat, they need their carbohydrate, so that their bodies can be able to grow and to function normally. And you do not want to be restricting them of food, particularly for long durations of time, because you don't want that to result in issues at the end of the day. The elderly as well, and people that have things like mental issues as well, it is not advisable for them to fast, because of course their nutritional requirements are very different. So at the end of it all, trying to ensure that they are getting enough, particularly some of them, as people get towards like the old age, things like dysphagia start to set in, and dysphagia is just like difficulties with swallowing, etc. And of course their requirements as well, like the body's requirements do change significantly, and you find that the elderly can end up actually having issues, in the sense that they still need the energy, and sometimes the appetite can disappear, appetite can decrease as a result of age. When they don't have enough saliva, they find it difficult to chew, they find it difficult to eat their food, and all those issues that come with old age, changes in their physiological body mechanisms and things like that. It means like their energy requirements can actually be high, but then they're not able to eat that much. So if you start putting them again on fasting, that can be something that can significantly influence their health. And so at the end of it all, the elderly, and of course people that have things like mental health issues that can manifest in things like eating disorders, etc., it is not advisable. For example, if somebody has got things like anorexia, which already you are not able to feed yourself, and then going into fasting, that's another problem in itself, because you're restricting yourself of calories, when in actual sense your body needs those calories. And so just trying to look at all those different differences in terms of like the age, Alex, in terms of the age, looking at it in terms of like the age of the people that you're looking at, the physiological functioning that is needed, and of course the most important thing to always think about is somebody's basal metabolic rate. What is basal metabolic rate? This is the energy that you required, or the organs that you have requires this energy to be able to function. So when you are at rest, you're not doing anything, you're not doing any exercise, you're not doing any activity, that energy that you need is important for you to be able to realize, particularly during the fade state when you are eating your food. Try to think about it. You're like, okay, what is my basal metabolic rate? I need to have enough energy that is going to continue to keep me, that is continuing to sustain me until the time when I am going to be eating. So if you have only any of those issues, as I've mentioned, you're pregnant, you're breastfeeding, you are a mother to a young child, or the elderly, somebody with mental health issues that particularly manifest in things like eating disorders as well, that's not recommended for you to be able to fast, because of course, if you're doing that, it needs to be under proper medical supervision, and it needs to come, again, the information should actually come from medical doctors and not just from anybody on YouTube or anywhere giving you this information. And so when you know that, and now we've looked at people that cannot be able to fast, so we've gotten that out of the way. Now let's look at who can be able to fast. I think that will be the majority of the human population. And of course, it requires a lot of discipline. Listen to Abby's talk yesterday. Listen to her as she was saying, like, sometimes when you wake up in the morning, it needs like talking to yourself. It needs like speaking to yourself, saying like, hey, Claire, today we are fasting. And because we are fasting, we are going to stay until X amount of time without food. And you need to constantly remind yourself it needs to be until that time. You will feel weaknesses. I mentioned you'll have things like you can have like headaches, you can have weaknesses in the body, you can have irritability, you can have things like nausea for some people. Some people can actually just feel like, you don't have energy and things like that, and that can come with its own challenges, and this can actually make you to feel like, I don't think I can first. And I feel like it's not really just for the few. It is something that a lot of people are beginning to tap into. It a lot of even the traditional medicine versus the conventional medicine. I read a book, my sister-in-law bought me a book, The Secret, and as I was reading it, like, there are so many people that talk about different things. And of course, there are things that I agree with, and there are things that I don't agree with in the book, but it's a great read. And I was reading the book, there's this guy that was saying, like, he's really a very established, well recognized author. And he was saying, like, he was trying to talk about his patterns of his week. So, like you're saying, on Monday, he does like these long fasts, obviously, because we constantly are pumping our bodies with food and food and food and food. And it gets to a point, it's like, if you're just constantly clogging your system with food, there's no way in which you're allowing it to kind of become released from the system. And it's like, imagine if you have a pump that you're constantly pumping inside stuff and stuff and stuffing and stuffing, and it doesn't just have time to kind of, even the water, like if you have like taps and things like that, and it gets to a point that you have to basically stop, clean the system, ensure that the system is well thoroughly cleaned, and then after that you reuse and refuel and things like that. And even our cars, it gets to a point that if you constantly just are putting in stuff, you have to get to a point that you're like, okay, we need to clean that. We usually clean our bodies, our cars, we clean the inside, etc. And that's how I look at it when it comes to fasting. It gives you that opportunity to be able to kind of put your body at rest, so you're not kind of overloading and overworking your digestive system, but you're getting to a point you're saying to digestive system, okay, we are going to take rest. We're going to be able to allow you to do what you want to do without really kind of pumping more into you, so that the body begins to do what it needs to do. Wherever there is like all those stored energies, it can go and start looking for them, and it starts to break them down. And that kind of, in a way, can repair even your body. It can result in so many different benefits, which is something that I've already highlighted. So you might be telling yourself, like, I am never ever gonna make it to fast, because I just kind of lose weight so quickly if I fast, or So many different things can happen to me if I first, or it might just be like it's an like kind of an emotional attachment to food that you need to deal with, and you need to work on it and say like, I'm not going to be allowing food to be like my masters has said in one of the shorts that I produced. I think that I posted like 2 days ago. I think it's not supposed to be food who's your master, but you should be in charge and in control of your eating habits. So just good news to tell you, if you didn't know that, anybody has the potential of fasting. It's just that if you don't have any underlying health issues. But if you have any underlying issues, I can't repeat this enough. If you ever desire to do fasting because of the numerous benefits, health benefits that are associated with it, please do speak to somebody who understands your story, somebody who understands your journey. And I was speaking yesterday to a colleague of mine. We went for a lunchtime a run around close to where we work, and she was telling me something that really touched me. I said to her, like, I'm doing this challenge for 30 days of intermittent fasting, and she told me like she had a lifestyle of intermittent fasting, her and her husband, for years and years and years, and she just enjoyed it because if you look at her, she really looks great. She's telling me her age is like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. And maybe longevity, the secret is hidden in us being able to allow our bodies to come into in tune and in touch with our bodies, so that we know when they need us to feed them, and when they don't need us to feed them, we're not just pumping food for the sake of pumping food. Hopefully that was helpful and useful to anyone, to someone. So tomorrow is day 6 for those of us who are doing this. I know it's not just Abby. I know a couple of other people that have messaged me, as I said, who have continually told me they're on this journey. And so if you're doing this journey with us, I'm cheering you on. Know that tomorrow is day 6. We are almost a week into this. Don't let go of this determination, the work that you put in for the whole week. Don't let go of it. Keep on going. Know that you're doing this within a community. We are cheering you on. We are doing this together, and together we will win. Together we are the majority that will win at the end of the day. As I continue to tell you guys, just continue doing what you need to do, what works well for you, what works for your body. That's the most important thing. So I want to bring this to a close because I don't want to make these streams very long. But just if you have any questions, go onto my the channel, a community page, leave those questions there, and I will be more than happy to answer them. Of course, I'm also on Facebook on Nutri Food and Health Group. If you want to leave their messages as well, I'll be more than happy to answer them as we go along. And as I said, as I bring this to an end, if these messages encourage you, if what we are doing encourages you in any way, you learn something new whenever you come to visit this this channel, sorry, why not consider supporting what you're doing by giving us a like, by sharing, by commenting, or by subscribing. Until tomorrow, I shall see you tomorrow. But until then, continue to prosper. That's my prayer for you, that you will prosper and be in good health, even as your souls continue to prosper. Look after yourself while remembering we have only one body to live on this world, and the day we depart out of those bodies is called death. And so when you have an opportunity, why not look after your bodies in a God-given way and enjoy every single day, enjoy every single opportunity that you have to take care of your body, to look after it in the way that you know best to do it. Because as I say, our bodies never come with a manual. They just, you're born and you have your body, and you have to figure out what works well for you, what doesn't work well for you as you go along. So thank you so much to all of you who have been online with us tonight. We celebrate you know that you're celebrated, appreciated, and highly loved tonight. I really am so grateful. You supporting what I'm doing continues to motivate me, and I'm gonna bring this to an end today. Until tomorrow, take care, and every blessing and much love.